Hey everyone, so in today's lesson we're going to be talking about pronouns and more specifically pronoun-antecedent agreement. Now, pronouns should hopefully be a review from last week and just in general, but pronouns are words that take the place of another noun or noun phrase. We're going to be focusing on basic, indefinite, relative, and reflexive, but mostly basic and indefinite is where we want to be, at least for right now. Now, when it comes to antecedents, this is a new word for some of you. Ante comes before. Right? If you've ever played poker before, ante is what you put into the table before you're allowed to see any of the cards. So an antecedent is the word or noun phrase that the pronoun is replacing or refers back to. So example here, when Maria finished her homework, she turned in for the night. So she is our pronoun, right? And we are recognizing that she is replacing Maria. So why do we need to know this? Well, it is essential for improving the clarity and sophistication of your communication in both speaking and writing. You don't want to be writing the same stuff. You don't want to keep saying Maria did this, Maria did that, Maria, Maria, Maria. You would want to change to she or her or herself. Okay, so pronoun antecedent agreement is a pronoun and the noun it replaces. So they must agree in number and they must agree in person. So with number, it should be, if it's a singular antecedent, it must be a singular pronoun. If it's a plural antecedent, it must be a plural pronoun. If it is a specific gender, the gender must match. And if it's a specific point of view, the point of view must match. So writers use pronouns like she or it to avoid repeating the same noun. The noun that a pronoun refers to is again called the antecedent. So Steph dug a hole is our antecedent here, and filled it with treasure. It here is referencing back to hole. Now hole is singular, so therefore it must be singular. Pronouns and antecedents need to match. Singular antecedents need singular pronouns, and plural antecedents need plural pronouns. So Sebastian has 2 trampolines, many trampolines. We have the S, it's plural. And jumps on them every day. He's not jumping on it every day. He's jumping on them every day. Why them? Because there's more than one trampoline. The them is referencing back to the trampolines. This is really about being able to find the pronoun and seeing what it's referencing back to. So continuing that a little bit more, sometimes finding the right antecedent is tricky, so make sure you are matching the pronoun with the correct noun. So here we have Theo picked up the plate. Well, Theo is a noun. Okay, he picked up the plate of donuts and balanced it on his head. So here we are finding this antecedent, this pronoun, it. And what is it referencing? It is not referencing Theo. Theo is not an it. Theo is a person. It is referencing the plate. All right. So matching pronouns and antecedents can also be tricky with indefinite pronouns. This is where it gets 100% the hardest, but this is just the hardest in general with pronouns like each or both. I'm going to talk to you guys about a bunch of different indefinite pronouns here in a second, but some indefinite pronouns are singular and some are plural, and that's where it gets difficult with indefinite pronouns. But here we have each of Kate's binders is decorated with its own design. Each is singular. Okay, so because each is singular, its must be singular. So moving forward, so we just have basic examples. Liam forgot his backpack in the classroom. The students finished their project on time. The cat licked its paw after eating. Erica ran to the store. She forgot to buy the ice cream her mom wanted. Those are basic. We should hopefully handle those pretty well. But when it gets to here, this is where it gets tricky, really, really tricky. So you have singular indefinite pronouns. And I have a list for you here, and I've also listed them all on the note sheet that I'm giving you. You need to reference this. You need to consistently have this out for you so that you can reference which one it is, because you're not going to remember all of these. It's just really, really tricky. And there's times where it's super obvious, and there's other times where it's really tricky to determine whether or not it sounds wrong. We can't go on the sound roll with indefinite pronouns because sometimes it sounds wrong, but it is right. And it's just the rule, and we have to get it right. So like singular indefinite pronouns, these pronouns always require a singular antecedent pronoun. That's what we were just saying. So everybody is on your list here. It's singular. It's always singular. So everybody must bring his or her own pencil. Now there is a new rule I'm going to try to avoid because it really confuses people, but there is a new rule out there because of how there and they have now become, or there and them and they have now become the singular there and the singular they, them, and all that other stuff. So there are times now where you could say there, but you have to be making sure that it's the singular there, which gets really confusing. So I'm really going to try to stick with the his or her unless it's like in no red ink and they give it to you in that regard. But they're not going to try to trick you. They're not going to give you his or her and their. They're going to give you something way off, would be my assumption if they did it in no red ink. So again, with indefinite pronouns, we how can we make it even more tricky? By adding a singular there and a singular they, them. So plural indefinite pronouns, these you should be able to memorize. So another trick here with indefinite pronouns is this. If it's not both, few, many, or several, it's most likely singular. Now there are some down here that could be both, but most likely both, few, many, several. You should be able to memorize those, and they all seem like they're more than one anyway. Both is two, few is more than one. It's usually three. Many to me is three or four or more. Several is a few as well. So these pronouns always require a plural antecedent. So few students finished their project on time. So we have few students. There's a few of them. Okay. Now, of course, because we have to make everything very difficult in English, I know you guys laugh when I say things like this, but it boggles my mind sometimes and how tricky we are with indefinite pronouns and the like. But variable indefinite pronouns, meaning they could be either singular or plural, depending, right? So all, any, none, most, some. These guys can be either one. All right. Now, with this, it depends on the noun in the prepositional phrase that follows the pronoun. But sometimes you'll have prepositional phrases and it doesn't matter. And sometimes you have them and they do matter. So all, any, none, most, and some. So most of the water, see, this is a prepositional phrase. We know it because it begins with the word of. Most of the water spilled onto its tray. Because water is singular, we know that we need a singular. Why didn't I underline that for you guys? We need a singular pronoun here. Okay. So now, really quickly, relative and reflexive, we're not going to really do much with those today, but I just want to talk about them. So relative pronouns are who, whom, whose, which, that, and they refer to a noun or pronoun mentioned earlier in the antecedent and relate it to a clause. So the relative pronoun must match the number of the noun it refers to, and the verb within the relative clause must agree with that antecedent. We'll probably do more of this when we do subject-verb agreement, but for example, the team member who works late often gets the most done. So who is referencing to member. So because it's member, it's singular, and that means we have a singular verb here, works. But here we have members, and since it's a plural verb, a plural noun, we have a plural verb who and a plural verb get. So who doesn't change, it's just which of the nouns is it referencing earlier in the sentence. And then reflexive pronouns are things like myself, yourself, themselves. These reflects back to the subject of the sentence and reflects the action of the verb. She baked the cake versus they baked the cake themselves. So she taught herself to play guitar. They prepared themselves for the big game. These ones are usually pretty self-explanatory. Okay. So now, really quickly, we are going to do a little bit of a practice here. We have 2 slides I want to work on, and I'm going to give each one of you a flashcard to work on this. You're just going to write 1 through 10. Which one do you think each one is in this box here? Okay. And remember to reference back to right here if you need to decide whether or not it's indefinite or not. And I realized here that I have a couple that could be considered the singular there. And if that's the case, then I'll accept either one. But I just want to see your flashcard when you're done with these 10. So we have Emma lost blank notebook, her notebook or their notebook. The teachers discussed her lesson or their lesson plans during the meeting. Neither, which neither, right here, singular pronoun. Neither of the brothers brought his lunch to school. Neither of the brothers brought their lunch to school. John saw a pile of leaves and immediately jumped into them, or John saw a pile of leaves and immediately jumped into it. Now I want to point out here, we're talking about one pile of leaves. There's many leaves in the pile, but we're just talking about one pile. And then every hat Layla owns has their own box, or it has its own box. And on the back, Joe thinks that all colors of M&M should have its own flavor, or Joe thinks that every color of M&M should have its own flavor. So we want to come back up here. We want to look, all is here, okay, and every is up here. Every should be up here, but I don't know why it's not. Okay, anyways. Okay, when each tire on Oliver Wood's bicycle went flat, he repaired them with chewing gum, or when both tires on Oliver Wood's bicycle went flat, he repaired them with chewing gum. Sarah taught herself how to play the piano. Sarah taught her how to play the piano. The pirates found the one box of jewels, and tried to unlock them, or tried to unlock it. And then the thief slipped each of the paintings out of their frame, or each of the paintings out of its frame. And remember, each is right here, so each is always singular. Okay, now you're going to write those 1 through 10 on your flashcard, bring it up to me to check, and then I will give you the practice. All right, guys, hopefully pronouns and antecedents are becoming clearer. We're going to continue practicing them this week, as well as figurative language, and then morphology in sentences. Thanks you guys so much for watching. Bye, everybody.